fucking gone. So like I'll never get those beats like ever again. But there were some like cool ideas. I remember like sampling um fucking Full Metal Jacket and like some other stuff. I like sampled the like the Beatles and like a few other things. So I had some like pretty like cool like interesting beats on there.
How do
I remember
you
like skipping
how do
school
you
one
get a
day and like
sample? Like at a
how
logistical, let's say I wanted to sample a thing, and somebody were to say, Holden, go sample something. Like I could probably do some bullshit bad sampling job, but like, how do you actually sample something? It's something I never asked anybody. But you're an ill sampler, and so you literally know how to do it.
well I mean depends what you're using.
I don't
If you're
know what
using an MPC, you could put it right into the
what's an
MPC.
NPC.
It's a ICAI MPC Musical Production Center. They have that. That was like one of the first, not one of the first, but it was like one of the first like really well known. There's been a bunch of other sampler workstations before that, like but the MPC is kind of like a standard in like hip hop, and there or the ASR10, the eSonic ASR10. That was different because I had like a whole keyboard, and the sample rate, like you could just sample a lot more. But then there's the SP12. That was a fucking like a lot of amazing producers used that. RZA used
So,
that back
so
in the
what
day.
is
But
this?
RZA used like a bunch of different things. But
So you would
anyways,
just
that
like
that's
look for the part you want to grab and then just cut
yeah.
it.
Well, okay. Like how I've always made beats was with computers. Like that's how I started making beats. Yeah, I've worked onto like hardware. I've made beats on like drum machines, MPCs. I had like an MPC 500, but I mostly just do stuff on DAWs, digital audio workstation, Fruity Loops. That's like, but I've tried Cubase and Ableton and Cool Edit and Machine. There's fucking numerous different digital beat making things you can
This one's
use now.
Reaper, everyone.
Reaper.
I just had it open, so I flashed it on top of you for a second. That's Reaper. Anyway, that's the one I use, but it's just that, yeah. So those would I know that records the audio, right? So I get that
You
part.
could, yeah, well, you could record it directly into it, but you have like a sample time. Like, so now it's probably whatever you can, there's probably like, you can probably record as much as you want. But back then it was way more limited. So, like, what they would do was just they would like speed it up so they could get more time and then slow it back down so you could have like a longer, so like you have like a 2-3 second sample rate. Like you can only record for like 2 or 3 seconds or whatever. So they would like speed it up so they could record more, and then slow it down so they'd have more to like chop. That was like the more limiting like beat machines back in the day. But then with Cool Edit or what I use or what I used before and use sometimes SoundForge. Um, I think it was made by Foundry. Now it's owned by Sony, but before it was like Sonic Foundry, and I
Right.
think they sold it to Sony. But yeah, SoundForge is what I use to like chop up my samples. So you basically like drag in your MP3 or Wave or FLAC, whatever, and then you listen to a part and you're like, oh, you hear that, and then you chop the part out that you want. It should be, make musical sense, like be on a like a time signature of, you're gonna want to have at least like a 1 2 or like a 1 2 3 4 ideally, and then you chop that and then you build your beat around it. Your drums, put it over, you put like a break over it, or
Mm. Fair
I don't know
enough.
if that explains it.
Nah, it's dope still. Everybody cares about this stuff. For you, it might be like, whatever. Nobody really wants to. I don't know how you feel about it. But for me, it's like, yo, so you take a part of the beat and then you put in the fucking file thing and then you find it and you use the magic of the computers to make it sound bless. But no,
Pretty
I mean,
much.
your version was more eloquent. I did follow that. I guess it was more like the idea of sampling software, because like to me, I would do some bootleg shit, like load it up into my like DAW and then find my like 4 seconds I want and then cut, and then I would do something with that. And I don't really know how good or bad it would be, but it would probably not be the best.
Well, that's pretty much it. But it's just like, it's like after a while you get to like you'll like see like a wave file, and then you're like, all right, it starts there, and then oh, it ends there, like the part that you want to
Yeah,
chop. So it's just like
I
after a while, it kind of just like it just becomes, you're like, oh yeah, I know if it's from there to there. That's like what, you can kind of like gauge how much you want to take out.
And then do you put a lot of effects and shit to like fuck up the sample, or do you like leave your samples kind of naked for the
You
most
can
part?
you can fuck with the I like to fuck with the tone a lot. Drop the tone, like make it sound lower the pitch. Um, and then like in Fruity Loops, there's a thing when you're time stretching it, like you can time stretch it, and then there's like resample or tonal. I usually do it to tonal, and it will like kind of, it regulates it to sound what it will what it's supposed to sound like, but at the slower rate. So it
Right.
like recalibrates the sound, so it doesn't sound like ultra slow. Like it sounds kind of like pitch to where it should be, but it's slower.
No, it's fresh. No, I'm following all of this. I don't know if y'all were following all of that part. Sometimes I don't know how detailed we need to go, but it basically is using the magic of the computers to make the sample sound proper with like magic. That's basically what's happening.
Yeah, and then I like I put a phaser on it, and there's like, I mean, there's different like
I
effects in the
actually don't know what
phaser,
the
and
fuck a phaser is.
it just kind of gives it that like warbly kind of sound. But I'll use like the the Moog preset in it. So it's like it's very like slight, like detuned, like I'm gonna get like, it just gives it this like little warbly, very like vague with kind of warbly sound in it.
That's mad French, man. Mad French, fresh. I meant to say fresh. I don't know why I said
It's
French.
very French.